So this is my 6th audio recording. I'm starting today, and I thought I would start with the Ranker lifestyle, as I said at the close of the 5th audio recording. That was about people who have encountered cryptids describe what they saw. But instead, I'll get to that a little bit later, and I'm going to begin the 6th audio here with an article from Outside magazine, which is the 10 most convincing Bigfoot sightings. I have absolutely nothing to support my point of view that Bigfoot are connected to Wendigos, but I firmly believe there's a direct connection in the folklore somehow. And I don't know the shaman traditions of the Bigfoot, but I'm saying there's a shaman connection between the Bigfoot and the Wendigos. I don't know what it is. Okay, so let's just get on with this article then. The 10 most convincing Bigfoot sightings from Outside magazine. Bigfoot seems to pop up in a lot of places, but he sure is elusive when it comes to having his photo taken. For decades, people around the world have been fascinated with the legend of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, or whatever you choose to call it. Sightings of a furry upright biped and reports of beastly footprints have been reported from as far afield as the Himalayas. Although no definitive proof exists, the often questionable reports continue adding up. Outside plunged into the deep, dark corners of this subculture to compile the most famous, perhaps most convincing, Bigfoot photos ever captured. Okay, that's kind of sad that I'm so delinquent on doing my sessionary homework that I didn't realize I'd have to be showing Bigfoot pictures. I think I did a long time ago, and I decided I'd still figure out a way of doing that. If not, I'll just start this recording over. You have my promise. The most famous Bigfoot photo. Arguably, the most famous and influential Bigfoot photo is the 1967 film shot by Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin in Northern California. The Bigfoot walk it depicts has been parodied by many, but never truly replicated. Even with this enhanced image, it's hard to tell if it's a person in a gorilla suit or the real deal. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I think I should be able to upload photos on my post section of YouTube, so it shouldn't be that bad. You just have to go to my post section. I repost some really sweet, shorter videos from other people's accounts that I think make some nice backgrounding for my channel. Just to have some ambience on my channel. They're really nice. You have to look at them yourself if you want to. And I think I can just upload some photos. If not, I will apologize from my heart to my heart that's not there for being so unprofessional. I mean, seriously, being unprofessional, that's bad. So, okay. Then going on, the Marble Mountain Bigfoot. Here's another picture, of course. I'm like one of those bad cartoon characters. I'm worse than Neil Goldman from Family Guy. He would be like really on top of this. He'd have like a slideshow ready. So why am I comparing myself to him? Okay. A youth group was camping in the Marble Mountain Wilderness, California, when leader Jim Mills noticed a strange-looking creature skulking along a ridge nearby. He filmed it for nearly 7 minutes, making the somewhat grainy footage the longest video of an alleged Bigfoot sighting. Okay. So it shows a Bigfoot that's like a Yeti. It looks like a Yeti. He's a giant in white. He's a gorilla that's walking like a person. And the really famous Bigfoot picture is really old. He looks like the Samson, the big ape Samson that was in the California Zoo and was huge. Only thing, this picture is of the Samson-like creature that's about 2 heads taller than what Samson was and like totally erect and walking freely like a human being. It's a really terrifying picture. No one's ever been able to confirm if that's a real, mammoth gorilla walking around or it was. I followed that story for as long as I first heard that when I was very young, and I followed that story for as long as I can remember. They claimed that he died a couple of decades ago, that somebody found out that he had just, met his end over some tragic, devastating circumstances in the wild where he got cornered someplace and he died from an injury. And otherwise, he was still thriving, walking around. He was so active, he never really interacted with anything else but other wildlife. He wasn't vegetarian like some people claimed. He just ripped apart like wild animals, got into fights with a lot of beasts. He was already pretty old when he got photographed, and I mean, this is folklore, but I was enjoying it. And they took a couple more pictures of him. I'm surprised they don't have it. That's not more popular. And of him, I'm sorry. And of course, the more folklore, they claim that he had a family with another apus, a large ape, who had escaped from a zoo. A large female ape had escaped from a zoo somewhere in the western states. And he found her, and they had little Bigfoot apes. That started more Bigfoot ape sightings in just a few years. So they were trying to explain that the little Bigfoots were like enormous by the time they weren't even like a couple years old, and then they were huge after maybe 5 years already. They were adult size after 10 years, and there's no comparing them to human growth. So that's a kind of Neanderthal breed of ape, I think. It almost corresponds exactly to a prehistoric kind of Neanderthal. So, I don't know, it's kind of odd. The growth pattern, if that was true, or maybe they were just making it up from the Neanderthal record. I don't know. But I don't remember, they were saying for the longest time, what media I was listening to about it, that he was the only one there was. And that people were afraid because he had learned how to commute, across country, and he was like tearing apart all sorts of things in the wilderness, and people who were hunters or, doing any kind of wilderness activities had paranormal instances that they thought were connected to some large beast that could, create such damage. And then they claimed to have spotted him again all the way over on the East Coast. He walked through Alabama. I'm pretty sure there are many people who might be familiar with this story. I don't know how many might be listening to my story, but there are other people. I didn't make it up, and it was pretty popular. Though it was kind of fun to listen to. After that, I was still pursuing to see if there was more Bigfoot, and there were more sightings of strange things happening in the backlands of the wildernesses all around the world, that there were large mammoth kinds of animals recreating themselves from an ancient prehistoric time that were being sighted, and that there were threats to human life everywhere, and nobody was paying attention. There's strange paranormal things happening because nobody could survive the attacks of these wild beasts. Started in Africa with the wild beast attacks were enormous. The wildebeests in Africa, the zany zebras, or the wildebeests, they had gotten to be such a large population at one time. This was in the 90s. They had become enormous, like giant paladin-sized, horse-sized kind of things. And they were like knocking everything about. Those are some stories. Then the wild dingoes were going crazy. And the wild hyenas were getting larger, everything. And then from there, it just started proliferating everywhere. That they're in North America, South America was overrun with enormous boars, swine, pigs, everything, all lost in the wilderness trying to break out of stalls, find other passages to other places. And apparently they did. They found other passages to other places, whatever kind of places they found, but there's like hidden land or something. So they were backing out their lifestyle there because apparently these large mammoth animals were like terrified of people in the city. So there's enough. But then it started with the large reptiles, never ended, that I heard. Then I didn't hear anymore. About 10 years ago, COVID put a stop to every kind of story there was, but about 10 years ago, I couldn't get stories like that anymore, never found them anymore. They just terminated for some reason. And I had reasons for it, but I don't want to share. I'm sorry, I don't care to share. It was kind of like a global government problem because it was like legitimate news, this kind of magazine, feature magazine, but still close enough to legitimate that you might want to believe that. And some things documented on YouTube, too, that look like, real enough document for protected releases and stuff. So anyway, the Bigfoot controversy seems to have sparked all of this. And So finally, connected to them, somewhere from about 2000 to about when they started they quit the giant global boar invasion in the wilderness. They were saying there were just like legions of Bigfoot, and what they meant by legions were there were camps of them in the same places where those swine had been able to break out, like passageways. I don't know if anybody believes in what I have to say, but I have no choice. I know land surveys always show that it's a time-space connection to astrophysical space on land, but there's always been such a theory, and basically wild animals are put into stalls. That's what they mean. Like wilderness stalls means like a backland. That's a passage. It goes through a passage. Otherwise, they're competing with human beings too much, and it's too dangerous. So they don't really, whoever they are, authorities doesn't really anywhere, relate that. But, if any of that had been true, it's big enough threat that it should be more well known what's going on. Anyway, so those Neanderthal walkers were kind of hacked up with the giant other animals. Maybe they were helping each other to survive. I have no clue. And I can only find stories a little bit here and there at a time. And the claim was coincidental of each story to each other. So maybe they found some way of just living then. Because even recently, now this is YouTube, so you can realize what I'm calling authority. Now YouTube, when it does its paranormal sightings, sometimes people upload on channels of the kind, they're saying there's still this vast outbreak of Bigfoot in land gateways. And you don't really know what to expect in the future. I don't mean to terrify anybody, but I mean, it's been all this long and all this way, so who and what knows. But that it's interesting because they're learning. They're trying to understand the difference. Most researchers saying whoever is claiming that they won't take no for an answer and that it's real and that they've done their document, they're saying the research is showing that they're trying to figure out the difference between animals and people. Doesn't make sense to them why animals and people aren't the same thing. So their society is animals right now, and any connection to trying to get close to people has not been working out. Obviously, it's not been working out. So, okay, I'll just go on with this. So anyway, so we were on Eric Shipton's Snowy Bigfoot Yeti footprint. British explorer Eric Earl Shipton snapped this photo. It's of a big footprint in the snow bank while trekking through the Himalayas in 1951, alleging that the footprint belonged to a Yeti. In 2014, Christie's auction house in London capitalized on the worldwide interest in Bigfoot and sold the original photo for nearly $5,000. Wow, that's good. Independence Day Bigfoot. Called the Independence Day film, a beast was caught in a remarkably clear video that shows an alleged adult Bigfoot walking through the woods with a cub holding a child in tow. The filmmaker and exact location are unknown, and many skeptics claim that there is a telling visible seam of a gorilla suit. I wouldn't be able to see. Provo Canyon Bigfoot. In October 2012, a group of siblings hiking in Provo Canyon thought they spotted a bear in the woods and started filming. When the creature stood up on two legs, the hikers ran, abruptly ending the shaky video. A year later, the siblings launched a Kickstarter campaign to investigate other Utah Bigfoot sightings. I think I've seen that one. Allegheny Bigfoot. In 2007, hunter Rick Jacobs captured some of the most famous Bigfoot images to date with a camera mounted to a tree in Pennsylvania's Allegheny National Forest. His camera also captured clear photos of bear cubs, offering evidence that the unidentified animal was not Ursine. But skeptics believe the animal is just a bear sick with mange. It doesn't look like that. It looks like a monkey that's trying to stand up on its back legs. It looks like a very large monkey that's having trouble standing up on its back legs. It's injured or something. Johnstown Smelly Bigfoot. Locals in Johnstown, Pennsylvania were baffled by a footprint measuring 17.75 inches found near a residential home in 1980. According to the Associated Press, the footprint coincided with reports of strange noises and a strong but unusual odor in the area. Washington's Blue Mountain Bigfoot sighting. In 1994, former U.S. Forest Patrolman Paul Freeman claimed he saw a family of Bigfoots in Washington's Blue Mountains. I remember this. The video is shaky and grainy, but has been deemed the real deal by so-styled Bigfoot experts. Bigfoot sightings in Washington state parks are a steady source of intrigue for fans of the elusive simian. Mississippi Bigfoot. Mississippi resident Josh Highcliffe captured video of this potential Bigfoot while hunting on his property in 2013. Afraid to go back to the woods, he posted the footage to YouTube asking for help to identify the animal or for a prankster to come forward. That looks like a very enormous bear standing up on its hind legs. That looks like something out of an Idlewild, because it has a snout. None of these Bigfoots, the Bigfoots imitate human facial features, whereas, well, I don't know, I can't tell. None of them have noses like bears. None of them have bear nose that I've seen ever. A hiker was walking through the Utah hills near Provo Canyon, Provo Bigfoot number 2, in 2012 when he spotted a large animal in the woods. As he approached, the animal stood up on 2 legs, started throwing rocks at him, supposedly a trademark behavior of Sasquatches. I think that's a means of socializing. Okay, that's the end of that. I'm going to be looking for Bigfoot articles, so I just wanted to introduce the topic somehow. And after that, I got to snap those pictures and try and upload them. So I'm going to pause, of course, again and come back with, I don't think I'll be lucky enough to find any Bigfoot articles that are accounts right now, with more some cryptids. This audio will finish what I've got on cryptids, and then I'm going to go back to creepy, paranormal, and psychotic on a different audio. Okay, I'll be back. Well, while I was looking for some more Bigfoot stories, more in depth and less introductory, and taking those snapshots for when I do an upload, I came across this. I came across some other things, but they're people's actual personal wilderness stories, and I don't know. They haven't really been turned in and turned over yet by other people, so I don't feel like it's right to go into somebody's personal, uploads on their files and just start reading them. I'm not going to do that. I wish I could, but I don't have the formalism to do it. So I'm only reading things that are already they've been introduced through another media content authority and then spit out back into media. Again, it's not actually somebody's first-hand account on their own personal website of experience, which is, a privilege to be able to read, so I don't want to get my, what do you call that, my IP address banned from people's personal sites. Forget that. Okay, so this is, since I haven't done my homework ever, I just thought I'd jump right in with a general site. This is called ATI, the website. All that's interesting. Oh yeah, I've heard of this several times. I've read from here too. Not on audio, but very good website. And the article is 8 Unnerving Bigfoot Stories That Will Make Believers Out of Skeptics. And the very first one is the one that we were talking about. Oh my gosh, my page just flipped me off. I am so sorry. I have to reload my Safari. Okay. The very first story is the one about the original 1970s Bigfoot sighting of the one that I say looks like a double tall Samson gorilla, if you haven't seen him. So this story is from October 2024. So I'm just going to read the first part of it, which is about it's an introduction, and then the startling 1967. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was actually No, I wasn't around then. I'm sorry. I guess I got wind of the story a few years after that. I'm not really the youngest person you know, but I'm not really the most ancient person you know either. The startling 1967 Bigfoot sighting caught on film wasn't something that I'm familiar with that way. I thought it was a startling later on Bigfoot. I actually did, but I guess I'm wrong. It even said that before, and I wasn't paying attention because I guess it really wasn't that publicized, or maybe I didn't pay attention because I don't know. Okay, moving right on. From early 1900s attacks in the Pacific Northwest to the most recent Sasquatch sightings, these close encounters with Bigfoot will send chills up your spine. I still don't understand the difference between Sasquatch and Bigfoot. Maybe this is also controversial for enough of another population of interested people that it's making it very difficult to make the identification process between what by now might be gorilla hybrids, seriously, what might be the identifiable Sasquatch, and what's kind of, I don't know, is it possible that there's some kind of strange, unknown, secondary, what am I calling Neanderthal kind of gorillas? Neanderthal gorillas? Already hybrid? I don't know, whatever. It's unclear precisely when Bigfoot sightings began, but North American history is littered with accounts of a bipedal ape man seen roaming through the nation's most isolated woodlands. Indeed, even before America's states were united and Canada became a sovereign nation, a plethora of indigenous tribes told tales of wildmen stealing their food. The name that each culture bestowed upon this beast varied, but it was largely formerly known as Sasquatch. But then a 1958 article covering a curious set of enormous footprints cemented the name Bigfoot in the American lexicon. That's what, it's just supposed to be a synonymous term, but they've also claimed that they're different creatures. A Bigfoot is not ever the same as a Sasquatch. I wish somebody would make up their mind. Bigfoot sightings across the United States have clocked in around 23,000 encounters in total since the late 1800s. It's been thousands more since 2000. Thousands more than 23,000 in 20 years. I'm sure I have that right. These encounters range from the harrowing reports of 20th century loggers to a perplexing 1967 video that still draws on speculation to this day. He's a beautiful beast, I would guess that's why, if he's for real. Indeed, these 8 Bigfoot sightings and recent Sasquatch encounters are the most entrancing stories of the elusive beast yet. I really shouldn't read this now. My day is getting long, and I need to move on with some things. Maybe I should put this together when I'm more fresh. Okay, but I promise you, this will be the next tag, so you'll hear it in a second. I'm going to take a very long break. I wanted to make sure I didn't forget to put this right here. Okay, today I'm just going to jump in with the startling 1967 Bigfoot sighting caught on film. The so-called Patterson-Gimlin film spans 59.5 seconds and remains hotly contested as to whether or not it is an authentic Bigfoot sighting. The Patterson-Gimlin film of 1967 arguably cemented Bigfoot into American folklore more than any other sighting in history. Of course, Sasquatch was known among several indigenous North American tribes, and American newspapers reported sightings as early as the late 1800s, but no actual footage of the beast existed until Roger Patterson and Bob Giblin's fated trip. It was on October 20th of that year when the two men rode their horses through Bluff Creek, California. Patterson had been obsessed with the mythical beast, eager to produce films and authored books on the subject. Gimlin was merely an old friend who joined Patterson in support. Around 1 p.m. that day, their horses suddenly kicked as a strange scent filled the air. Then the men spotted a furry creature ambling on 2 legs about 100 feet away. The 2 men dismounted, and Patterson used his trusty Cinekodak camera to capture the beast on 16mm film. Ever since, Patterson and Gimlin's film has been scrutinized, lauded, and criticized in equal measure. Some have deemed it the most elaborate prank in history, while others, including esteemed researchers, see it as the most convincing Bigfoot evidence ever recorded. But skeptics have argued that because Patterson profited so thoroughly from the short film, he almost certainly developed the footage as a forgery on purpose. Indeed, Patterson did take the film on a nationwide tour charging admission and even published a book on Bigfoot the year prior. Many thus deem him a huckster who finally caught a lucky break with his contentious video. I don't think so. If it was true that he caught the beast on video, what was he going to do? Deny the video and say it didn't happen because it was not possibly true? I mean, it would be more than likely that he'd do exactly... It doesn't prove anything, period. It doesn't prove that it's not true. You'd probably want to show it. I mean, that was his pride project, besides... I don't know. Costume designer Philip Morris even claimed that he himself sold Patterson the costume seen in the film. Later, a Yakima, Washington man named Bob Hieronymus alleged that Patterson had paid him to don the costume. The Patterson-Gimlin film has staunch defenders, however. Idaho University professor Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, for instance, believes the musculature, and limb ratios captured in the footage are way too precise to have been forged, particularly for a video from 1967. I'm so used to seeing that picture that it doesn't look fake or real to me, and I saw it first when I was a child, so I don't have an impression of fake or real to this day. Bob Gimlin himself has never wavered from any detail of the account. With the number of sightings that they claim, you'd want to believe it's true by now. You know, that's not anything you'd want to put a definite yes or no on. You'd have to see the supporting evidence in statement of the fact that it was a hoax to be final, like in legal form. That's final, not trumped or anybody's waste of time. Because if it wasn't completely legalized, then it would be a waste of time for a legal system to say that it had been hoaxed. I think so. Ultimately, the Patterson-Gimlin film laid the foundation for how Bigfoot sightings were to be received moving forward. Well, they want to believe in it, but it is just one of the Sasquatch encounters chronicled here that is simply too intriguing to ignore. Okay. The next one, too. Pennsylvania's eeriest Bigfoot encounters. Though notoriously elusive, Bigfoot has been spotted roaming the woodlands of virtually every single state in America. According to the Bigfoot Field Research Organization, BFRO, most reported sightings that come from the West Coast, though the state of Pennsylvania has had a slew of intriguing Sasquatch encounters through the years. The first documented account of a Bigfoot-like creature in Pennsylvania dates back to 1858, when there was a series of wild man sightings in Lancaster that resulted in nationwide coverage in December of that year. A thing like that man, but hairy... the quote from their sightings. A thing like a man, but hairy as a bear, has been seen by the people, an article concerning the encounters read, the 1858 encounters. It was very wild and strong. It was once seen in a pen, a farm pen, sucking the cows, and when discovered it started as if about to fight, and then turned and fled, bounding like a deer. It walks upright and is supposed to be a wild man. Yeah, in later accounts it says it doesn't have any kind of proper relationship to other creature status. It's been observed with other creatures like itself, so it seems to have some kind of social standing with itself. Of course, these are, very elaborate folklore tales, but still. But when it encounters humans, of course, it becomes violent because it seems like it's trying to get along with human beings, but when it encounters animals, it doesn't have a proper reactive course of conduct. It sort of either tries to do something, outrageously strange, to the creature, or it tries to leave it alone. It tries to form some kind of bond of action that would be acceptable under Lord knows what circumstances of husbandry, of animal husbandry, of animals understanding that they know each other somehow, even if they're not the same. That creature doesn't have any understanding of anything. It's an alien of some kind. So Sasquatch encounters like these have purportedly continued steadily in the state ever since, of Pennsylvania. The most intriguing sighting was not one of Bigfoot itself, however, but its purported 17 3/4-inch footprint. Even more ominous than the size was the print wasn't found in the isolated forest, but near someone's home. This more recent Bigfoot sighting occurred on August 8, 1980, when locals in the Conemaugh Township area of Johnstown, Pennsylvania, first discovered the massive print in the mud. It appeared to belong to somebody or something's right foot. Additionally, it had 6 toes rather than 5, and the second imprint of the left foot was found 8 feet away from the right print. Wow. Homeowners nearby soon added that there had been a strange stench in the area. They also claimed to have heard bizarre noises the night before, 2 phenomena that had long been accepted as facts about Bigfoot. The case was so mysterious and newsworthy that the Associated Press ran a story on the potential Bigfoot encounter, which has never been solved nor debunked as a prank. Story 3. A famed explorer found Bigfoot-like prints on Mount Everest. So that's a Yeti. Some believe that a mammoth, an ape-like Himalayan creature referred to as Yeti or abominable snowman, is different than Bigfoot, but others suspect that Bigfoot and the Yeti belong to the same species and are simply regional takes on the same mythology. To those who believe this peculiar find on Mount Everest in 1951 outside like a Bigfoot encounter. While traversing the mountain's Menlung Basin in 1951, famed British explorer Eric Earl Shipton happened upon a trail of 12 to 13-inch footprints in the snow at 19,000 feet. Shipton was accompanied by famed mountaineer Tom Bourdillon, who photographed the tracks and sent them to a contemporary named Mick. Here are the footprint photos. Sorry for the delay, Bourdillon wrote. We came across them on a high pass on the Nepal-Tibet watershed during the 1958 Everest expedition. They seem to have come over a secondary pass at about 19,500 feet down to 19,000 feet, where we first saw them, and then went on down the glacier. We followed them for a better part, the footprints. We followed them for a better part of a mile. Bourdillon went on, what it is I don't know, but I'm quite clear that it is no animal known to live in the Himalaya, and that it is big. So it trafficked 500 feet. Further intriguing was that this incident came a little over 25 years after the Royal Geographic Society photographer N.A. Tombazi became the first European to report a similar type of Bigfoot encounter while scaling Mount Everest himself. Skeptics have proffered that the prints were made by an animal and merely grew in size when the snow below melted. But just 2 years after Shipton's footprint discovery, Sir Edmund Hillary, the first person to reach the peak of Mount Everest, launched an expedition to find this creature. While Hillary failed to do so, Shipton's photos have been marveled over for decades. Many have deemed them as promising evidence of a Yeti or other Bigfoot-like creature. His images fetched around $10,000 at Christie's auction house in 2014. 1 year after, famed climber Mike Reese photographed yet another set of enormous prints there. Wow. Story 4. A U.S. Forest Service patrolman's 2 shocking Bigfoot encounters. The Walla Walla Union Bulletin reported on Paul Freeman's 1982 Bigfoot encounter. Paul Freeman was an experienced former U.S. Forest Service patrolman, and he was also an ardent cryptozoologist. Perhaps that's why some have been skeptical of his shocking Bigfoot encounter in 1982. Freeman knew his way around the woodlands in America's Washington state, where, that year, the seasoned woodsman purportedly spotted massive hand and footprints around the Blue Mountains near Walla Walla. With no camera by his side, he took plaster casts of the prints instead. Though the prints have since been the subject of much debate, Washington State University's Grover Krantz thinks they might be the real deal. Krantz noted that the casts contained imprints of dermal ridges and skin whorls. These nuanced anatomical details made it seem unlikely that Freeman had forged them. But then, more than a decade later, Freeman made his most intriguing find. During a routine walk through the same forested region in 1994, he encountered what appeared to be 2 Bigfoots tending to their young. This time, he had a camera with him. Yeah, by the 80s, it became a story that Bigfoots were having children spreading around and walking huge distances, like I said the other day. Whereas when the story was first introduced, it was impossible to hear that they had any extension of, into family life of their own, Despite the grainy image quality and general shakiness of the recording, it appears to be no fake, but skeptics have pointed to Freeman's history as a self-made cryptozoologist nonetheless. For others, the Freeman footage of 1994 trails behind only the historic Patterson-Gimlin film recorded nearly a century before. For others, the Freeman footage of 1994 trails behind only the historic Patterson-Gimlin. So he's an authority number 2 behind the origination of the modern story from 1967, they're saying. Unbelievable as Freeman's discovery may sound, some estimate that anywhere between 50 and 75 Bigfoot tracks were spotted in the Blue Mountains between 1982 and 2000. Yes, I remember hearing that too, so that's not even unknown. I mean, that's really true. Okay. Story 5. The skunk ape in Florida's swampland. Just as the indigenous tribes across North America each had their own ideas about Bigfoot, the plethora of modern-day sightings all across the nation has yielded the belief that there are various kinds of Bigfoots with different characteristics, such as the skunk ape of Floridian folklore. The skunk ape allegedly enjoys Florida's warm and humid climate and, like Bigfoot, is known for its putrid stench. The most convincing footage ever recorded of this creature was captured on January 3rd, 2015. It was at approximately, I'm trying to see if they are offering a picture of it. Not yet. It was at approximately 1 p.m. and during a Tampa, Florida canoe trip in Lettuce Lake Park that Matthew McCamey and a friend suddenly spotted the so-called skunk ape. They first heard a noise and the rustling movement of tree branches nearby. McCamey grabbed his phone to film what they thought was going to be an alligator or bear, but turned out to be unlike any animal he'd ever seen before. In that moment, he said, I was looking at it and getting a little freaked out, especially once it started really moving, said McCamey. You could tell he was slapping the water and it looked like maybe he was grabbing something. At the time, I was just thinking, holy shit, what the hell is this? Thinking back to what we saw, I think there's a good chance that we actually saw a skunk ape or Bigfoot or whatever you want to call it, said McCamey of the creature he'd filmed. It was not a bear, I know that. It wasn't human. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime experience to have been where we were, when we were, the likelihood of it happening again. The Bigfoot sighting in Lettuce Lake Park left McCamey and his friends so traumatized that they agreed not to discuss it any further. McCamey claimed that the only reason he'd stopped filming was to get away from the area immediately. Afterward, he forwarded the footage to former Oregon police officer Phil Poling. Poling left his career as a lawman in favor of running an investigative Bigfoot website that examines any and all available evidence about the creature. He noted that the animal in McCamey's film indeed appeared ape-like in its movements, ominously composed, and even reacted instinctually to the sounds of McCamey's canoe oars hitting the water. I came away from this with a distinct impression that I have no idea what it is, said Poling. It could be a guy in a costume, or it could be the real thing. I do not know. McCamey sent the original copy to Bigfoot Evidence, not asking for anything in return. Poling concluded to this potential Bigfoot encounter, why would someone take all of this time, effort, and danger just to give the video away anonymously? So yeah, I mean, there's lots of, it just, there seems to be some reason. Just to be a cult, there's all different kinds of, an occult thing, then you'd say something about it at some point. After that many decades, you would believe that somebody would give it up and say, okay, so the great part of this is being in costume and provoking. I mean, it's an anti-shamanist device where everybody who has no transcendence is going to get into costume and then become the Bigfoot. Maybe, that could be a basis for an occult sighting rig, to call it a rig and get everybody so involved in the hope of finding something alien that seems to want to be a part of things and then never really has a reason to. It's unexplained, so it's interesting. And besides that, you need to look at that more carefully. You don't want to get it. Why would you ignore something like that if you didn't actually know what was going on? But I find it strange that after so many decades on so many, indigenous stories in the past about the Sasquatch, as they say that in the past centuries, that there would be, I think it wasn't just in the 19th century accounts. I believe that Sasquatch has been cited globally for as long as when I can't support that. I'm sorry, so I'm making an assumption. It just blurted it out. But I remember now the difference when I read that passage about the Sasquatch being the indigenous term for the Bigfoot, that the indigenous people, of course, were plagued by the problem of ape men, apes suddenly falling into line with their camps, and while they're trying to, and that this was wrong. It was unsettling to anywhere, unsettling to whereas in the ancient world there were dragons and reptiles, they sometimes had encounters with too many apes. So then they were differentiating, what was wilderness thicket and what was forest thicket. So this was a big thing for many centuries of explorations everywhere, and in Europe especially. And why would anybody just, build a cult of saying, well, I'm just going to, never tell anybody that I have a costume ape cult, and yeah, all the joiners can know, but nobody else. Maybe, that seems a little strange. So I think they're definitely seeing something. It's unclassified yet, and I definitely believe it has to be alien, because the creature has alien attributes in its description. It doesn't. That's the other thing, that it seems that it could be potentially realistic, even if it is so unclassified, because you can't. It's too dangerous to get close to, and it won't allow itself to be encountered by human beings. It doesn't really like human beings because it can't. It doesn't have a relationship to a human being as another Bigfoot. It only really likes apes. So, but obviously it has a different caliber of being an ape. It's not actually an ape. So I think it's an alien kind of ape. Where from, who knows? I don't get it. So, anyway, story 6 would be the next one. I'm going to take a break because I need one. I'm running on thin wires these days. No big deal. It's not interesting. I'm just going to finish up this article the next time. And I do promise I will try everything I can to collect the pictures and the videos and put them up on my post on my channel. So they're referential. There's nothing really much I can do to reference them to this audio. But after you hear the audio, you can just go through the pictures. I hope I can upload the pictures. I still haven't looked since yesterday. You know how lazy I am, but I will very soon. The videos, I know I'll probably be able to have no problems to repost. And hopefully that'll, give some more background to what I'm reading. All right, so until tomorrow, probably. Have a nice evening in the 1 second that it takes for you to hear the next word, okay? It was longer than an evening that I took my break. I won't say how long. Okay, story 6 from the ATI magazine article, 8 unnerving Bigfoot stories that will make believers out of skeptics. I've had a little bit of time to rest my voice. So this is story 6, the North Carolina Bigfoot sighting that made a believer out of a skeptic. This also has a YouTube upload. North Carolina's Unwary National Forest has become a hotbed for Bigfoot sightings and Sasquatch hunters alike. Enthusiasts regularly meet at the local El Dorado outpost before venturing out to find the beast. For former U.S. Army tank commander and fraud investigator Michael Green, this was never a personal passion. But all that changed after a few harrowing experiences in the mid-2000s left Green wondering whether there really was something out there. Green was camped out in the 50,000-acre landscape by himself one night when something approached his tent. After a few moments of hearing the unmistakable sounds of leaves rustling nearby, the thing came for him. 2 seconds later, it was right over my tent, he said, mimicking a deafening roar. And that wasn't nearly as loud as it. Scared the devil out of me, as you can imagine. 2 nights later, while camped out in the same forest with his friends, Green caught a harrowing glimpse of the creature responsible. A lumbering, bipedal, ape-like beast in the distance. As a former military man, Green used his surroundings to calculate its size. I guess from the measurements comparing it with trees, it was 7.5 or 8 feet tall and striding with that ponderous arm swing. He said, biggest mistake of my life, really, not to start recording. Determined to capture the creature on film, Green returned to the same woods week after week. He fitted his camper with cameras ranging from night vision to thermal equipment and waited patiently. It was in 2009 that his patience paid off, and a creature stealing one of his baited candy bars was captured by his thermal imaging cameras. Oh, that's sweet. They like candy bars. I don't care, said Green of Skeptics. I know what I saw. I don't care if anyone thinks I'm crazy, but by God, I'm going to prove it one way or another. And well, I just hope I can prove him right here before I die. Many have argued against the validity of these Bigfoot encounters by claiming no one's ever seen a Bigfoot skeleton, suggesting the creatures don't exist at all. To that, Green argued, how many skeletons of a mountain lion have you found? Nature takes care of things very quickly. Either that or for the conspiracy theory value and the, yeah, if it was true, maybe anybody who had some validity factors involved on it wouldn't want to share them for reasons of self-defense or other kinds of involvement we wouldn't necessarily know. So they disposed the bones. Yeah, more than probable. Or otherwise, they don't really come forward to find people except unless they're looking for something, as is understood by their behaviors. Unlike kids, they keep mentioning, they're not fond of being in relation to anything. I think they're probably just looking for animals, not so much people, or things in the wild, yeah. So they would be in such a back thicket that most people wouldn't go there to discover their bones. I really doubt it, or be allowed through these back passes where they obviously are coming from, as I stated early on, a long while back, but I'm not going to go down that track. The crusade for the back passages that I'm suggesting, I made my statement on it, and I know that I have a valid point of view. They aren't obviously in any front kind of wilderness. They're in a hidden wilderness in a great thick. That was blacked out because it's too dangerous. So it might have become too dangerous for them as well, so they venture forth trying to find something, trying to negotiate from their weight what they can with what's life outside, and they're not making it. There's no communication available to them. I from all the things that I've seen or read about it, that's the story I'm sticking to. That's what they make the most valid possibility for the validity of their existence. Anyway, so it's more than unlikely their bones are very difficult to find, and it's probably on shaman-protected grounds that are also unknown, where there's all kinds of sacrifices that are just could probably considered to be horrors. They're probably living on occult grounds that they don't know anything about, and making it just barely. If there's more of them, I would guess the shaman the Wendigo shamans we've been talking about have found a way of making sacrifices out of them. Have there been any sightings of anything that have any kind of ape-like features that are similar to the large mammoth apes that the Bigfoot typically are? I've been wondering that for a long time, but I haven't heard anything like that. Okay, so on to story 7. The violent Bigfoot encounter that saw 400-pound beasts attack. Oregon has the second most Bigfoot encounters by population in the United States. I guess California then is first. Despite an undeniable roster of hoaxes that presumably comprise the majority of Bigfoot sightings, reports like this in this 1924 incident on Mount St. Helens, in Washington State boggled the mind. 1924, okay. It was here that a group of prospectors, 1924, they're saying, longest time the media was saying the earliest sighting was like they say in the 60s, 1924. It was here that a group of prospectors claimed to have encountered a group of 7-foot-tall ape men, which nearly killed them all with boulders. Wow. Prospectors Fred Beck, Gabe Lefevre, John Peterson, Marion Smith, and Smith's son Roy recounted their potential Bigfoot encounter to the Oregonian. The men said they were about 8 miles from Spirit Lake when 4 of these guerrilla men attacked them. The bipedal creatures were covered with long black hair, and the men guessed that they weighed around 400 pounds. Their ears about 4 inches long and stick straight up, the men told the newspaper. They have 4 toes, short and stubby. Beck purportedly fired at the creatures with his rifle and managed to shoot one of them off a cliff. Thinking themselves successful in driving the beasts away, the group calmly retired that night. Suddenly their cabin was shaking in its foundation as the creature slammed against the walls, with one tearing a hole in the roof. Many of the rocks fell through a hole in the roof, and 2 of the rocks struck back, one of them rendering him unconscious for nearly 2 hours, the article continued. The group escaped their cabin at the crack of dawn and decided not to alert a single soul. Nonetheless, somebody talked, and word of mouth prompted an investigation into this violent Bigfoot encounter. Despite the U.S. Forest Service launching an inquest that year, Rangers J.F. Huffman and William Welsh found nothing to corroborate the story of these men. Not even the cliff where Beck had shot a creature yielded any evidence. In the end, the authorities deemed the incident a prank, despite finding 14-inch footprints nearby. Not much of a prank. The gorge were, unless it was a huge prank, that's a pretty sad prank. Why would they be motivated? I mean, the campers would have had to have set that up with somebody. They were all pledging a shaman cult, and they just wanted to leave a big prank behind. I mean, that would still justify it because they'd had Bigfoot to deal with. The gorge where this Bigfoot encounter may or may not have taken place is now called Ape Canyon. Okay, good. And then the last part 8. Recent Bigfoot sightings from 2020. In January 2021, Pulitzer Prize-winning newspaper The Gazette chronicled a shocking daytime Bigfoot sighting that occurred in Summit County, Colorado, in the summer of 2019. It concerned a hiker who was taking a rest at about 11,000 feet near a log cabin in the Mayflower Gulch when he spotted a large bipedal creature failing to scale a 20-foot wall covered in snow. Poor guy, he's not a Yeti. The hiker and 2 others went to search the area for the beast when it suddenly disappeared. They failed to locate the creature itself. They're very quick, they're very huge, and they have one typical behavior. They slam and destroy everything. They don't really do anything else. They're like bears. They're like mad sloths, insane sloths. They're a combination of bears and insane sloths. I don't know. They don't really move much otherwise. They don't really have any defined evolutionary path that it seems. They just do a few things, look around, use their senses, comfort themselves with what their own needs are, but they don't really have any chance to learn anything because they're always just trying to survive, it seems. And their one big talent is slamming, destroying, and slamming. They never learn anything, you know. They failed to locate the creature itself, but found enormous hand and footprints in the snow. The photographed evidence was sent to investigator Scott Miles at the Bigfoot Field Research Organization, BFRO, which deemed it authentic. I believe that he saw exactly what he reported and was a witness to a Sasquatch, probably a young individual that accidentally or naively got caught in a compromising situation in the daytime in a fairly high-traffic area, said Miles. The BFRO deemed this a Class A sighting, as it occurred under the clear visibility of daytime and regarded a bipedal creature that left large prints behind. Perhaps most shocking is how many BFRO investigations result in Class A status, with one of the more recent Bigfoot sightings of that kind occurring in fall 2020. Reported on March 11, 2021, the BFRO detailed a case from Shawnee, Ohio that occurred in September 2020. It saw a woman and her husband hiking through Wayne National Forest when they heard wood-knocking sounds. They'd heard this while hiking here before, but never thought much of it. That afternoon, however, at about 5 p.m., they heard a howling, roaring sound which utterly terrified them. The couple immediately turned around and went home. They spent the night looking up animal noises from creatures native to Ohio, but found nothing even close to what they had heard. Waving it off, the couple returned for another hike a few days later and saw a large, dark, furry bipedal creature that rapidly bounded over a ridge and disappeared. The BFRO currently lists 6 other Class A Bigfoot sightings from 2021 alone. Maybe Bigfoot is a population of primates that has managed to elude modern man for centuries. Maybe these Bigfoot sightings are a series of misunderstandings. My page jumped, and lies. There's no undeniable proof that the legendary ape man exists, and no amount of skeptical debunking has disconfirmed that it doesn't. Absence of evidence, in other words, isn't evidence of absence. They might be there, right? Okay, so that's the end of that article. But I can tell you, I don't know if just the propaganda value just, exceeded any kind of other value, and now was the time, to really trump it up. Maybe if it is nothing but a fabulous hoax. I can't believe in hoaxes of that size. That's all that I'm saying. I know that as far as like the mammoth, the mammoth boar sightings and all their relations were confirmed. The pictures and the visitations were too apparent. This is from the back wildlife areas that are untrespassable. I'm not supposed to talk that way. Reptiles, mammoth boars, swine, dangerous, horrible populations, larger than normal other kinds of wildlife creatures. And behind the thicket of that, there are paranormal investigation sightings where you have to break a wall of pitch black, basically. So there's no one to believe this, and I would never spend my life trying to prove it or confirming what I said. So I'm now a hack here in total hearsay, and I figure, it doesn't really matter. I'm not trying to say anything but an opinion. But behind that wall of thick blackness and paranormal investigation breakthroughs, they have reported camps of Bigfoots. It's pretty terrifying, and nobody knows what's to come of it. But one thing is for sure, if that is for real, enormous apes, large upright apes that correspond to this Neanderthal-looking kind of alien creature. If there are aliens, they have been contacted. Those creatures have been touched by alien life forms, alien invasionary life forms. And then besides that, for paranormal terms, besides that, the shaman groups that do promote the Wendigo, kind of possession things that I'm storying, have traveled in to see them. So it's usually of that group, and there's no one to understand or believe it. I know paranormal investigation teams are trying to risk their lives going out there to breaches that way, trying to determine what is going on. Because if there is something invading, regardless of what it seems in media, it doesn't make any difference. It has to be a fact or not. And if it is a fact, whether it's plausible or not, to human belief makes no difference. Something like that is just too dangerous. So, all right. So the next article that I will be reading in this block here, if I don't decide to cut it off, is right here. Is I haven't decided. I found an article that belongs to somebody's personal site. It's called Maine Shaman. It's a shaman group. And it defines, is Bigfoot a paranormal phenomena, a shamanic view? I thought it was pretty good. I just highlighted it, glanced at some. I wanted to include it. I'm still asking somebody's opinion if I should, because it's more of a private website than I'm used to using. So, okay, so I'm going to stop for now. Have a good break time. The end of this audio recording is going to be a little bit difficult for me because I'm in the middle of doing so many things, and I really want to get this uploaded today. I finished posting the pictures and the videos to my post site on my channel here where you're listening. And I just have this one article to finish, to tag on to the end of it, to push this over by an hour. And then this segment for my channel will be done. I was really happy to have just even a few things to reference it, because I think, as I said several times already, the Bigfoot phenomena is extremely centralized to the rest of the cryptid controversies. Not just by the fact of the definition of cryptid, but by the fact that, there could be by now more than a little bit of co-involvement between the kinds of cryptid usages of Bigfoot folklore. You know what I'm saying? So if you were a shaman folklore society, giving them a lot of credibility, I wouldn't know how to refer to these entities. So let's say you're just sitting in your occult club, and I'm calling you a folklore shaman society, for lack of a better way of indicating who I'm pointing at. Yeah, so you're sitting in your club, and you're doing things with your shaman work, and you suddenly decide to involve the Bigfoot. That's all that I'm saying. I'm saying that I see, and I can't prove it, that they're closely related in cryptid issues which have been separated. They're not really connected by anybody's authority. I'm not an authority, so I can't do that for you, but I believe that. So I wanted to include some Bigfoot words in my general audios. I'm going to be shying away from cryptids pretty soon and going back to psycho stories and fictions of psycho stories and paranormal things and paranormal sightings. To me, it's one grand theater of paranormalism entering into the astrophysical world from a separation, from an ultraverse of some kind. So, okay, moving on. So this article is from mainshaman.com. Is Bigfoot a paranormal phenomena, a shamanic view? I've been fascinated by the legend of Bigfoot. This is the writer of the site. Since I was a boy and saw the $6 Million Man episode where Andre the Giant played the creature, I will say up front that I have never had a Bigfoot encounter and I am not 100% sure they exist. What I do know is that there is a lot of anomalous evidence. Bigfoot sightings. Like UFO sightings, I believe many Bigfoot sightings can be explained away. I think a lot of times people are seeing bears or hunters from a distance. I also think there certainly have been hoaxes, but not everything. Every photo, video, footprint, hair sample, anomalous DNA sample can be easily explained away. Not all of those can be explained away. Bigfoot lore and cultural phenomena. It would be easy to dismiss stories of Bigfoot as a modern cultural phenomena. However, stores of large hominids permeate cultures worldwide, from the Americas to Asia to Australia. This tells me that large hominids have lived alongside humans for tens of thousands of years, or are a feature of the collective unconscious. Okay, I should have done my homework here too. Are hominids related to Neanderthals? Oh my God, that's embarrassing. I wouldn't have done it. Okay. Below are just some of the names for Bigfoot from different cultures. Sukkum, a term used by the Chinook people of the Pacific Northwest, meaning strong or powerful. Semicues. The Lumi people, also from the Pacific Northwest, refer to a similar creature by this name. I'm not going to be able to pronounce these. I looked at them, I thought of practicing them, and then I thought I wouldn't even try. Zunkwa. The Kwakwa-Wak, that's also very poorly pronounced, tribe of British Columbia have this name for a giant humanoid creature in their mythology. So apitse. Leave it to me, friends, to try and present important topics and be, and be what it is that I can't really do it. From the Shoshone tribe, but I think I'm doing well enough. This name refers to a cannibalistic giant, which parallels the Bigfoot legend. Sheetanka, a name for Sioux uses, meaning the big elder brother. So all the indigenous tribes of the time had their own reference name based out of their own folklores for the sightings of this very large ape. Okay, erectly standing ape. I wonder if there were still like these iguanodon reptiles that I'm thrilled with. I think that an alternate idea of human evolution, instead of like large apes like Samson, might have been they discredit that Samson could have been primate. It had to be a much lighter ape. Instead of the Neanderthal or the other kinds of apes they decided were, there's also discrediting theory that say that after the hominids they were just humans, and then they receded, and because of the horrible astrophysical things, and then somehow they were reborn from, basically they're going also with a erector reptilian, but that the creature that stands tall as the iguanodon, that one seems to me that it could have easily have spawned any kind of humanoid creature with or without other primate help. So I'm wondering, there being undeniable evidence of there having been Neanderthal apes and hominids, both, not necessarily always featuring the primate. I gave my idea of what a primate point of view is. I told the Bactrian ideal. Human beings turn themselves into apes in the most inglorious ways of self-torture and torture in order to become the most barbaric kind of force that they could ever conceal themselves in coven of. And unfortunately, it states that this became degenerate to their DNA, and it became a tribalist. They were never redeemed. This became one of the failures of creationist folklores. It became one of the failures listed there of what human beings couldn't do. Any kind of advanced, not advanced human couldn't do to live. I guess you can't really turn yourself into a snake either, that people have tried and failed miserably. It ends up pretty much the same way. But that's discredited. Nobody could. So, I mean, you'd still find their bones. Who knows? All the atrocities that ever happened in history, astrophysical histories. I think I have it. Bactrian history records that. I didn't actually make that up. But it's folklore history. It's not considered to be antiquity or even known history. It's considered to be accepted history from a time that's been taken out of regular histories, because it can't be set in because of too many things that happen that have not been really determined what they mean to anybody. It avoids the simple kind of time linear thing we have. It involves a time-space science that we don't really cater to now. It involves aliens, right? So, where was I? So I was just trying to feature that. I'm wondering if at one time there was an iguanodon and a Neanderthal. I should do my homework. As you see, I have too many homework topics. And I do at times, but then I forgot. There are actually other things I do than wonder about apes and lizards. I just wonder about that sometimes. And when I see paranormal things relating to it, I just go, oh, yes, right. It's definitely related. So I sometimes want to talk about it. So anyway, I do believe there's some connection in some place in space-time. Some place in some planet somewhere, I believe there must have been a connection between these creatures because they seem to come out on the shaman folklore really big, is all interlaced somehow in some grand battle. Anyway, so it falls into shaman folklore, of course. And here we are. I'm kind of, on the Kikiyai, the Yakima and the Klamath tribes of the Pacific Northwest have these names for the creature resembling Bigfoot. Yayahas, the name used by the Yakima tribe, referring to a similar creature. Box. Bellacoola people of British Columbia have this name for the version of the Bigfoot. Oma. This name comes from the Hupa tribe in California. It refers to a creature similar to Bigfoot found in their local folklore. Bukwas. Among the Kwakiutl tribe of the Pacific Northwest. This name refers to a wild man of the woods. Nukluk. This term is used by the Dogrib tribe in the Northwest Territories of Canada. That's a little bit more central than the Pacific Northwest that this article always refers to. Northwest Territories are in the center part of Canada to the very far north. Rugaro. This name found among the Cree people is sometimes associated with a creature similar to Bigfoot. Amayi Yokop is from the Choctaw tribe and refers to the forest-dwelling giant. Shaskiavish, a term used by the Halkomelem-speaking people in the Pacific Northwest. Yaren, though not from North American tribes, this term is used in China and is sometimes compared to the Bigfoot Sasquatch legend. I have to admit, I can't prove this either, but I'm aware of the fact that China, especially the northern part, going in and out of Mongolia and then back into Kazakhstan, reports like so many Bigfoot sightings. Sometimes they say, the final reports say that they're afraid to let people travel outside into, wilderness areas that would otherwise be safe because of these sightings. Yowie. Similarly, we've heard about the Yowie in the media very recently. It was promoted. Similarly, this is an Australian Aboriginal term for a creature resembling Bigfoot, including here for its parallel in indigenous folklore. By we, I mean like us people living in this time generally in general. Gitzisan, used by the Gitzisan people of British Columbia. This name refers to a large hairy man-like creature in their folklore. Where am I? My page jumped. Keklikudle. This name from the Cherokee translates to hairy savage and resembles the Bigfoot legend. Zingzing, a term from the Catawba people, similar in description to Bigfoot. Nain. This term comes from the Gwich'in people of northern United States and Canada. Lupuoyas. This is a term used by the Paiute tribe referring to a Bigfoot-like creature. Mandukarahat, from the Karo tribe of California. This term refers to a large nocturnal creature. Natsinak, the Dena'yan people of Alaska use this term for a large hairy creature resembling Bigfoot. Siatko, a term used by the Coast Salish people, particularly in the area of what is now known as British Columbia and Washington State. Nialmo, this term used by the Beothuk people of Newfoundland, refers to a large hairy man-like creature. I'm going to take a picture of these names and then upload them from the article. I'm going to take a picture of this list of names and then upload them to picture on my post section. So then he says, and I'm sure there are hundreds more. So why would all of these different cultures have names and lore surrounding these creatures? We'll find out as soon as I come back from my break in 2 seconds. Okay, so I'm just going to finish off the last paragraphs here. The evidence against the existence of Bigfoot. Scientifically, you can't prove that something doesn't exist, but you can show that evidence is weak or debunked. You can say that evidence is not strong enough to support a hypothesis. That's kind of strange. I don't know that I agree with that. That's a very extreme shamanistic point of view. Usually you can prove that everything doesn't exist from an opposite point of view. I mean, it's hard to prove that you exist just standing there. I mean, because if it isn't obvious, then something doesn't exist. But I guess otherwise, I mean, you could just say anything exists, make up any kind of grand theory. I guess that's what most people are believing, that you could just make up anything and force everybody to believe it. I'm not that cynical. That's a very neo-modern shamanistic point of view, that you can just create anything and get it passed through anybody's like hyperkinetic ideals and brainwash them or hypnotize them into believing it, because, you know, you're being an irritating pain to somebody. Basically, you just won't let. I mean, through the metaphysical works of physical, mental irritation and torment, you can get anybody to have to believe anything. I'm sorry. I really wanted this article because it listed all the tribes, and it's from a shaman point of view. I didn't read that one little line, and I'm very much against it. People just claim lately these days on a metaphysical and spiritual level that you can just come up with anything. Humanity is the creative force behind the universe, and I vehemently disagree that there's only one God and creator, and he's the only creation and the only creator. So I believe that's where all the shamanistic evil and atrocities come from, is the belief that you could just like create anything. But so scientifically, you can't prove that something doesn't exist, all right? For many people, the existence of a massive hairy hominid will not be confirmed with a body or a live specimen. This is understandable. They have reconstructed hominid bodies in museums and protected museums from bones and skin samples. Yeah, this is understandable given the hype, misinformation, and hoaxes. So he's saying that hominids are not proven. In the last few decades, they were proven in closed circuit museum curates. You know, I guess maybe that doesn't go out to all the population. Healthy skepticism does leave one open to possibilities, but reserving belief until something has been satisfactorily proven. Believers and non-believers on both sides suffer from cognitive biases and will place more weight on evidence that confirms what they already believe. See, this is what I'm saying, what he just said. Believers and non-believers on both sides suffer from cognitive biases and will place more weight on evidence that confirms what they already believe. The neo-shaman point of view is that everything is hypnotism and you know, cognitive literal delusion, that there's nothing compositely real about the human composition or the natural composition around them. The entire diaspora of creation is just kind of like a mat, of an aesthetic mat, which is mutable and changeable, which I think new young shamans are being forced into believing. This is not scientific in the first place. Shamanism has to be based on astrophysical sciences, which exceed the boundary of just limited elementary sciences, of course. So it's nefarious to prove any point of view, but this idealism of hypnotism and self-hypnotism is the only realism that there is. Then, I mean, what is the criterion that somebody like this would then finally say that something exists? It would have to walk up to it and be human to the person, not him. I'm sorry. I meant like anybody of a biased opinion of this kind. I should keep my mouth shut. I'm sorry. I wanted this article so bad, so I apologize. One shamanic view of Bigfoot, because it's the only shaman basis that I could find online, you know, and I thought it was, you know, extremely well put together, just an oversight of it, but I didn't read this one little ending paragraph before, and I don't know. I'm sorry. One shamanic view of Bigfoot. Lately, I've been watching the show Expedition Bigfoot on Max. This is a reality TV show where investigators, including, I haven't seen this, but I heard it was good, including a primatologist, look for evidence of Bigfoot using high-tech equipment. In the episodes I've seen, the investigators will frequently get large hits of some upright walking creature on thermal cameras, which then just seem to disappear. In some cultures' lore, these creatures can camouflage themselves, turn invisible, or disappear. Now, that's something new. I have heard of that as well, lately on YouTube uploads. In practicing shamanism, I often encounter what we call nature spirits. These are non-human people different cultures call fairies, pixies, elves, gnomes, hobgoblins, etc. These mythical creatures are or were very spiritual, very real spiritual beings in almost every culture on the planet. So may I assume by this he means that only the spiritual creation is the realistic. This is also an antiquated shaman point of view, that only the spiritual creation is the actual creation. There's no truth to the science of the physical creation. That is dogmatically erased by all of Judeo-Christianity, the post-spiritualist shaman point of view, that we are not really here, but only figments of our brainwashed and hypnotized imagination. Even the Edists and the Krishnas and the Janus counter the idea that we could possibly be here in spiritual truth. I deny that vehemently, and I know that God created scientifically. That would be saying God has no minds, and he was not the originator of the spirit. So this is where these false spirits come from to prove themselves antithetically to the Lord's word. Anyway, I didn't come to preach. Many years ago, before practicing shamanism, I had a number of experiences with these beings that were witnessed by others. I tend to discount things where I am the only observer, as my eyes can play tricks on me too. From a shamanic perspective, some nature spirits can cross into our physical world and interact with it. If your ideas about the fake come only from media like Tinkerbell movies, you may think such beings always appear small. This has not been my experience. I have witnessed enormous spiritual beings in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, the woods of Maine, and the Anza Borrego Desert. From my perspective, Bigfoot may be a natural spirit capable of walking between worlds. Indeed, this would fit with much indigenous lore, and it would explain why the creature is so elusive and can seem to disappear at will. Some indigenous people associate Bigfoot with opening portals between worlds. As for paranormal phenomena, I think this is a blanket term for things we can't yet explain. To a shaman, these things, ghosts, nature spirits, alternate times, are normal, not paranormal. Someday I hope we will learn more. Okay, I'm not going to say any more. I demand a physical universe that follows the point of science. That's all that I meant to say, and what he said obliterates the physical universe. Most of the end of the world falls prey to the works of these evil spirits, if he would allow me to say that, to the problem that there is no physical universe because of the preceding spirit. I believe that's incorrect. So if God created the spirit, he created all things. Anyway, on that note, let me quit. So this article is ready to post. After this, I'm going to be covering So Psychos Are Real to Me. Okay, bye. Have a good afternoon. I will see you again in the next audio. Thank you for listening, and I really appreciate having a shaman article to upload. He explains it very clearly in the end. He has a point of view he has to uphold. Okay.